It's this that holds the secret to keeping astronauts alive. Incredibly, it generates oxygen from nothing more than water.
So what happens is you have some water, you feed some electricity through that water, and the electricity will split that water into hydrogen and oxygen.
The oxygen comes off as bubbles at the positive electrode, the hydrogen at the negative. But again, being in space turns something that's straightforward on Earth into a major engineering challenge. The bubbles of gas won't come out of the water.
In your high school chemistry lab, the gas just bubbles up to the surface because the gas is lighter than the water, and therefore it goes up. Gas is not lighter than liquid in space because gas doesn't have any weight and liquid doesn't have any weight. So you produce gas bubbles and they just sit there. And what we generally do is we centrifuge it. So you spin it all around, and the liquid, being denser, it doesn't weigh anymore, but it still has mass. So it's denser, and it goes to the outside, and you can then separate the liquid from the gas.
The hydrogen gets thrown away, gets pumped into space, and the oxygen is used for the ISS air supply.
There's enough capacity on board to generate 5 to 20 pounds of oxygen a day. More than enough for the crew. In the extreme environment of space, making air is just the first challenge. The ISS has to keep it, but it's under constant threat of a breach in its hull.
There is so much space junk up there now.
There's the potential for it to puncture the outer wall of space station.
I was taking pictures out one of the windows, and it was a nice clear window. I came back sometime later to take another picture, and there was a great big ding in the window, about a 5/8 of an inch in diameter from a micrometeorite impact. And we had to take pictures, close-up pictures, send it down to the ground, and it had to be analyzed to see whether it was going to be a threat when we entered.
If you pop a hole in space station, the atmosphere is going to leave very, very quickly.
No atmosphere means no oxygen, and the consequences of that are obvious. So how does the ISS deal with the threat of colliding with meteorites? The International Space Station is the largest man-made object that's ever orbited the Earth. And it's racing around our planet at 5 miles a second. But on board, that's hard to appreciate.
How do we sense speed if you're in a car, for instance? You have the road noise, you have the wind going by, you have billboards or trees going by your window. None of that exists in space. The only way you get a visceral sense of how fast I was going is, you're going over the Pacific Ocean, and then 10 minutes later you fly over New York, and then 10 minutes after that you're flying over London.
If the ISS was orbiting closer to Earth, we'd all see how terrifying its speed is. It would cross the US from coast to coast in just 10 minutes, lapping the Earth more than 5,500 times a year.
It's actually traveling at 26,000 kilometers per hour, or 17,500 miles per hour. So you'd definitely be breaking the speed limit, right?
Speed on Earth can be incredibly dangerous, but in space, at the velocity the ISS hurdles, the consequences of a collision can be off the scale catastrophic.
Space debris is going by you at about 5 miles a second, so if there's a big piece of debris that happens to have your number on it, it's moving so fast, you'd never see it.
March 23rd, 2012. Mission Control radios the crew.
And how about relative velocity? Any idea? Checking.
Something is heading straight for the space station.
The time of closest approach of this fragment of space debris is 11 minutes from now.
No one knows how big this object is.
Well, you do what you're trained to do, and even though you got woken up in the wee hours of the morning, you know what the reason is.
The crew must prepare the space station for impact.
Can you see it? Yeah.
You go through and you close every single hatch on station, which takes about 45 minutes.
Yeah. And from which direction? Yeah, we don't know.
The hatches can withstand a sudden loss of pressure that would come from the hull being breached.
Coming up on the 6-minute mark.
If there is a puncture, any loss of air could lead to a serious emergency.
Coming up on the 3-minute mark until the time of closest approach.
The crew takes no chances. They head for the escape vehicles.
We floated into our Soyuz spacecraft with initial preparations for undocking if space station were to be hit.
About 1 minute from PCA.
And you just kind of hunker down and hope it doesn't hit you, and you just sit there and wait.
Looks like that's it.
Fortunately, this time it's a near miss. But the ISS cannot rely on luck.
The International Space Station is designed to work in the low Earth orbit, which is full of space debris.
A lot of space junk is human-made. You know, they are things that we have put up there, satellites largely.
NASA has identified more than 500,000 orbiting objects that could pose a risk to the integrity of the space station's hull.
Luckily, most of the stuff that's big enough to hurt us we can track. There are a few objects up there which are too small really to be tracked well, but they're big enough to do damage.
The ISS is constantly bombarded. Most of the debris is tiny, but even a half-inch fleck of paint could inflict the same damage as a motorcycle crashing at 60 miles an hour. To be a viable home, the ISS has to be able to take the hit without losing all its air.
The ISS basically has a bulletproof vest. So just like a bulletproof vest, which has different layers of Kevlar that can rip as a bullet enters it, the ISS has different layers in its outer skin.
The space station's skin is known as Whipple shield. The outer wall is made from a thin sheet of aluminum, less than 1/10 of an inch thick. Beyond that is a blanket of woven material and a further thin wall of aluminum. It seems too delicate to protect the ISS from a direct hit,